Hey, welcome back. We're up to Psalm 55 today. And I'll be honest, this is the second one. I made one video already and I've struggled with it. I've listened to it several times and I just, I don't know, just didn't feel right. Felt like it was too much of me and not enough of God. And I never want that. I want more of him and less of me. So I'm going to make this one and we'll see which one I end up with. You know, it's kind of work sometimes to do these. And so I'm just still learning so much. And 55 is just tough. It was just a hard one. When I read it, I think you'll understand. I think many of you feel the heaviness around you. I just feel like there's so many dark things around us, and it's just hard sometimes to understand it all. And here it is, David. You know, it's relevant. Things might sound a little different in these words, but it's relevant to today. And I'm just going to go straight to the word, and then we'll talk a little bit afterwards. I just want to read it. Psalm 55. Listen, God, to my prayer. Don't hide yourself from my plea. Pay attention to me and answer me. I am panic-stricken as I make my complaint. I shudder at how the enemy shouts, at how the wicked oppress, for they keep heaping trouble on me and angrily tormenting me. My heart within me is pounding in anguish. The terrors of death press down on me. Fear and trembling overwhelm me. Horror covers me. I said, I wish I had wings like a dove, then I could fly away and be at rest. Yes, I would flee to a place far off. I would stay in the desert. I would quickly find me a shelter from the raging wind and storm. Confuse Adonai, confound their speech, for I see violence and fighting in the city. Day and night they go about its walls. Within are malice and mischief. Ruin is rife within it. Oppression and fraud never leave its streets. For it was not an enemy who insulted me. If it had been, I could have borne it. It was not my adversary who treated me with scorn. If it had been, I could have hidden myself. But it was you, a man of my own kind, my companion, whom I knew well. We used to share our hearts with each other. In the house of God, we walked with the crowd. May he put death on them. Let them go down alive to Sheol. For evil is in their homes and also in their hearts. But I will call on God, and Adonai will save me. Evening, morning, and noon I complain and moan, but he hears my voice. He redeems me and gives me peace, so that no one can come near me. For there were many who fought me. God will hear and will humble them. Yes, he who has sat on his throne from the start. For they never change, and they don't fear God. My companion attacked those who were at peace with him. He broke his solemn word. What he said sounded smoother than butter, but his heart was at war. His words seemed more soothing than oil, but in fact, they were sharp swords. Unload your burden, O Adonai, and he will sustain you. He will never permit the righteous to be moved. But you will bring them down, God, into the deepest pit. Those men, those bloodthirsty and treacherous, will not live out half their days. But for my part, Adonai, Yahweh, God, Father, I put my trust in you. I put my trust in you. Yeah. Y'all, there's just people going to disappoint you. People that you were close to at one time, that you loved. And let's face it, the more you love and trust somebody, when they hurt you, it hurts so much more than if somebody, a stranger, you know? I mean, I am panic stricken as I make my complaint. We're in verse 4. I shudder at how the enemy shouts. He goes down to say, my heart within me is pounding in anguish. The terrors of death press down on me. Fear and trembling overwhelm me. Horror covers me. Y'all, that's anxiety right there. That's David. David, he slew Goliath, okay? David, that's a full-on panic attack if you ask me. I mean, he's panic-stricken. He says at his heart, he thinks he's going to die. That's symptoms of full-on anxiety-ridden panic attack. David. You know, I'm so grateful for these Psalms because God allows us to see David, whom he says is a man after his own heart. You know, he failed, but he always repented and returned to God. Repented, changed, grieved the sins, the disobedience against God. And he's right here. I mean, he's showing us here that we are going to have anxiety over things that happen. We are going to be just messed up sometimes from this world and for people we trusted or strangers. But here, David makes it clear that these people, this person, he knew well. He could have handled it a whole lot better. I mean, we know that. It's easier that a stranger hurts you than someone you care for, you know? I mean, when he says, I wish I had wings like a dove that I could fly away and be at rest, y'all, I get that. I sure feel like that sometimes. I do. We can all relate to this. Read this Bible from the beginning to end. It's not too difficult. I don't, you know, this here I'm reading, I read this out of my CJB. That's this one. And I love this translation because it has such good, back to Hebrew. It gives some great study guides for understanding that time frame and understand the perspective from these people at this time, you know? And I read it in the King James, I read it in the NIV, I read it in the ESV, and I just love this one that just said, I am panic-stricken as I make my complaint. You know, I want my grandchildren, because that's how this all started. I just want to be the Grammy that reads to them and leaves them something that they can hear Grammy reading the Bible to them. And I want my grandkids to know that there are going to be tough times and people are going to disappoint you. And you're going to feel like moaning. I mean, David says, I'm moaning here. I'm complaining. He admits it. But God chose this to be in his word for us to understand that we're going to have those feelings. You know? That's not the sin of it. It's how we respond. It's how we act. It's how the fruits that come from it when we learn these things. David was having some full-on emotions here. And there's people going to disappoint us. There's people going to, with smooth talk. What he said sounded smoother than butter, but his heart was at war. His words seemed more soothing than oil, but in fact they were sharp swords. Yeah, we've all been there. The next verse, unload your burden on Adonai. That's the scripture. God, the Lord, Father. He knows who he is when you call out to him. I don't get all caught up in that. Yahweh. He knows. Just like when you read the scripture, I don't care what your translation, like if that works for you. We all have our favorites. I have mine that I think's better than others. But you read what works for you. You show up and read his word, and God will show up. He'll help you understand. I know, I've been there. It's okay to have tough times and anxiety and feel anxious, but we also go back to the word of what God tells us to do with that. And I want my kids to know that. I want my grandkids to know when they feel these anxious thoughts or they're upset because someone hurt them, someone disappointed them, they're angry, all these emotions that David's having here. But I want them to know they take it to God, their Father, Yahweh. That's where you take that burden. He can handle it. Griping and complaining, he can handle it. If you want to counteract hate and anger, take it to him. It's just so relevant. I don't. I chose this day. I read the Bible and talk to God a lot. I think David would have loved this t-shirt. I do. I think David would have wore this t-shirt if he was here in 2024, because, man, he talked to God a lot. I know he read the word that he had at that time. He read the scripture that he had. He knew it. Told you it was a tough one. So I don't know. Maybe I'll keep this one. Thank y'all for being here. If you're feeling anxious, wrestle it out with God. He could handle David. He's got you. Same God. He doesn't change. Malachi tells us, never change. Thank y'all.